If you're looking for a way to be able to exponentially grow your business and learn the secrets of what we did to actually grow to over $1 million a month, you are going to love this segment that we're going to share with you. In fact, I'm going to walk you through a case study of how we built to over $1 million a month and the unique, simple roadmap for exponential growth. Now, you're going to walk away with the top 3 assets for exponential growth: how to add up to $1 million per month in value and potentially recurring revenue, as well as get your roadmap for growth, and certainly have a much bigger vision, have greater confidence, greater clarity, and certainly direction in the process. Now, let's talk about some of the problems that are going on right now that we all face, the traps, if you will, and there's success traps and failure traps and the I already know that trap and many others. But if you feel like maybe you're working harder for less, or maybe you've hit a plateau, or maybe you just have a lot of uncertainty, or maybe you find yourself like a lot of people, chasing shiny objects and constantly feeling fragmented or torn because of all the distractions or AI or whatever the case might be, then this is for you overall. Now, I remember back when I had an early mentor who I'm really grateful that he really drilled this into my heart and into my head. And I was a slow learner in the beginning, but he says, you've got to build the number one asset in your business. Now, I'm curious, what do you think is the number one asset in your business? What is the number one asset? Write it down, or, depending on where you're seeing that, type it in the chat, post it below what you think it is. It's probably not what you think. Probably not what you think. And let's walk through it. Now, so here's a question I've got for you that he asked us in different ways back then. I was introduced to this concept back in the early 1990s. So if you had a choice to have 10 million followers on a social media platform, or a combination of social media platforms, or you had someone that was willing to write you a check or give you cash of $1 million, or you had a list of 100,000 people, what would you take? Go ahead and type it in the chat, or write it down, or just consciously be thinking like, which of those 3 do you think would be the most valuable for you right this moment? Again, ideally open your heart, open your mind to really see the power of exponential growth at its finest. So the number one asset that my mentor taught me years ago that's so critical to our bigger future is looking at ourselves like a media business and focusing on building the data and the list. Isn't that what the other platforms do? In fact, you might want to write this term down, is that you want to move people from OPP and also leverage OPP, which means other people's platforms. You've got the big blues of the world, the Googles, the Facebooks, and then you've got YouTube, and then you've got TikTok, and you've got LinkedIn, and you've got partners, and you've got joint ventures, and you've got newspapers, TV, radio, and the list goes on and on, right? So you want to move connections from other people's platforms to who? Your platform. You become the media business. You become the controller of the data and the list. And so when I got started really building this out, it started with one core product in my business. It was essentially this core product, which was consulting. And we had this consulting idea, and I started promoting that. And then ultimately, I ended up writing this book here. And this book, A Champion in the Making, became the catalyst, and it was my, first layer, or first product, if you will. If you look at spokes on a wheel. In fact, let me make this just a little bit bigger. So it was like my first spoke. So I had consulting that I was doing, very high price services, and then I had this book. And then ultimately what ended up started to happen was I started adding spokes in the wheel. And one product became a multi-$100 program, and then another became a multi-thousand, and then we had programs everywhere from like $7 all the way to multi-thousands and everything in between. And there were literally over 100 products and services. I'm going to give you a snapshot of that here as we go in a few minutes. And it was the catalyst to a much bigger vision, a much bigger future. And I want you to be thinking about that. What if you had the ability to take even where you're at right now, and wherever you're at right now, it doesn't matter where you've been, it matters where you want to go. And what if you had the ability to ultimately add spokes in your wheel? And ideally, you're going to get insights of how you can grow spokes in your wheel, both as your media and list, but also in potentially expanding beyond books and training and education and other things in your suite of things, which we'll get into in just a little bit. So Mark Cuban, just the other night, we were watching the Shark Tank. I don't know if you like the Shark Tank, but it's fantastic. And so Mark, had somebody on there and was talking about, pleading to get funding or whatever. And Mark says, you've got to focus on getting into conversations with customers, and the brand will evolve as you get customers and deliver, because this potential person who was pitching for an investment said, I want to focus on building my brand. And Mark was like, no, you need to focus on getting into conversations with customers till you get to your first 10 million, and then the brand will evolve as you get customers and deliver. So your brand is like your identity or your reputation, filtered based on what you build, right? So I want to encourage you to follow Mark Cuban's advice, which is to get into conversations with customers and build your customers. And that's what this is all about today. So my question to you is, how many new conversations did you start or go deeper with today? If you look at what big brands are doing, Coca-Cola, Disney, the NFL, etc., how many conversations did they start today, or did they go deeper with? Dozens, and hundreds? How about you, right? The more conversations you start or go deeper with, or the more invitations you have with your potential clients to go deeper with you, the deeper, the more offers you make, the more invitations you make, the more revenue you'll create, the more sales you will create, right? So there's some studies out in the marketplace. Business Insider, for one, has a report that says that a contact or a subscriber on your list is worth up to $1 per contact per month overall. Now, I've had all kinds of experience doing this for over 32 years, 180 different niche industry, 5,000 CEOs and founders. I found that it's not that absolute. I found that it varies all over the map, right? So one client example that we've worked with, their list is only about 20,000 people on the list, and that company does $10 million. So their, value per subscriber is about $500 per year, or about $41 and change per month, which is about $833,000 a month, right? So as you assess your list, how much revenue did you do this month? How many subscribers are on your list? And again, not all lists are created equal. Not all segments of lists are created equal. But if you start to think in terms of your list and your database equaling the value, or one of the largest needle movers, asset movers in your business, you can start to simplify the game. And that's what we want to do for you. So, with all kinds of different industries, there's some industries where a subscriber is about 20 cents per month per contact, which is about $3 per year. Like one of the people I got started earlier, we were chatting back and forth a little bit earlier. It's crazy, the number I'm going to share with you. You're probably not going to believe the amount of volume that he's doing, but he's grown since I originally started working with him years ago. He literally generates over 20,000 new leads every day, and acquires over 20,000 new leads every single day. And he buys these leads at different stages, because he finds, in his case, in his industry, which he works in health insurance, he works in the health industry, he works in Medicare, so those three segments, he finds that most companies that get those leads are not very good at follow-up. And he believes the fortune is in the follow-up. I'd like to take credit at least a little bit that we were one to do that, and he's really good at being able to do that. And I'm going to show you the value chain as far as communication, and he's integrated a lot of this to maximize the value of those leads. So he can literally get those kind of leads or contacts, or build his list for pennies on the dollar, and he's also getting undervalued assets that he makes valuable. How can you apply that, right? So whether you're someone like him, or maybe your industry is a little bit higher quality, or what have you, and maybe your subscribers or list or contacts are worth 50 cents per month per contact, which is about $6 per year. Now, this isn't just a client who buys, this is your whole contact list, and actually doing a math game. If the Business Insider report at $1 per month per subscriber is true, right? That's $12 per year in value. The example of the client, of many clients we've worked with, they're usually a lot higher than $1 per month per subscriber. So this is an example of one that's $1,000 per year. So what is yours, right? Now, again, all lists are not created the same, and all segments of lists are also unique too. So if I were to suggest to you, what are some things you can do that are needle movers to think about the database or the contact list or the data you're creating? One level of this is email. And the reason this is so important is because the averages right now, depending on segments of the list, the average open rate, do you know what your average open rate is? If you don't, you should go check. But the average open rate across the board and industry-wide is about 30 to 31%. Some are higher, some are lower, some depending on when they come on the list and different things like that. Text messaging though, you probably recognize this. If you text somebody, the open rate on that is much higher. It's closer to 71%. So if you have two databases, which one's more valuable? That right now the text one is, isn't it? So that's one of the reasons to build the database of text, because you have higher engagement, almost 2x. So you could send the messages to the text message, you can get 2x the results because of engagement, right? Adding the phone or video appointments, right? The average appointment by video or phone that shows up and engages is about 42% across all types of different industry. Again, some industries, your industry may be higher, but also some industries are lower, but the average is 42%. Direct mail, depending, is 3 to 10% as far as open and contact rates, or 50% or higher if it's an internal list, which is why mailing to your internal connections, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then last but not least is in-person meetings, right? Scheduling in-person meetings, those meetings, the show-up rates, engagement rates is over 70%. So what can you take away from this? Are you really leveraging and going deep across the board and wide with all 5 of these? And are you going deep to make sure that you're not doing what a lot of people do? They're relying on one level of this, which is email, which is very surface, or are you adding the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth level? And really creating a system around this, not relying on, you can automate all of these, but you don't automate yourself out of business just doing what most experts teach, which is this email thing. Most people are automating themselves out of business because they're relying on email, and the ones that are integrating email plus these others are the ones that are where the fortune is in the follow-up. But what could you do? How could you go deeper with this value chain of contact? So how big is your list now? So take a quick assessment right now, and I encourage you, and if you don't know what these numbers are, now is a good time to build this into your dashboard and identify how big is your email list currently? What are your open rates? How big is your text message candidate list? Because if you haven't been building compliant lists, you've got to start from scratch. But when is now the best time to actually plant trees? Yesterday, right? So start now. Same thing with the phone, right? How many people on your list have phone numbers? And again, when is now the best time to start building into that? How about physical addresses? And then also, how many in-person appointments are you setting up, right? So you have a place you can start. So you've got now, and if you just put some intention on this and attention, that which is measured improves, that which is measured and reported improves exponentially. So look at how do you add multiplication to each of these 5 and put focus on growing each of these 5 and watch what happens for your business. So one of the simplest ways to be able to double or triple or quadruple your business is by putting attention on growing these lists. Now, let's go even deeper, shall we? Right? So there's 3 categories of your business contacts, data, lists, right? You've got buyers. So you could take all 5 of those and then segment them out based on your buyers. You could do the same thing with your prospects. That's one term for it, or potential contacts, or subscribers, all kind of the same thing. Then you've got your MVRs. What are MVRs? These are your most valuable relationships. So these could be within or external to this. And then on top of that, a couple other segments in each of these 3 are opens and clicks based on frequency, recency, and also spend, right? So that's another layer, and that's a little bit more advanced strategy, but for now, let's focus here. So 2 action steps from what we've shared with you up to this point. Grow your contact list, right? Look at your contact list, your email, your text, your phone, your direct mail, and in-person appointments or virtual appointments, and look at where you're at, and then also set a goal of where you want to go. Number 2, put in methodologies for each of those 5 layers and the segmenting so you can do the work one time and get paid over and over and over again. So let me give you a quick example. What is a contact worth to you? A contact is worth to you, it depends. Is it possible that one potential contact could be worth $20 million? Well, the answer is yes. Occam's razor says the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. As a quick example, one of our clients is in the funding business, and he had a client come to him recently where they helped set the stage for their business to get funding, and that one particular client got investment funding of over $20 million, right? Now, you've heard of companies, there's stories where that happens, and it can be even higher than that. right? Some are less, some are more, but one client by itself, one person on a list could be that. So that's the short path to get to multi-millions in your business or growing your business. Here's another example. If you have 10 people that you do business with where they invest 100 grand with you in a period of a month or a year, that's over $1 million. If you have 100 people that invest $10,000 with you, that's $1 million. If you have 1,000 people that invest $1,000 in your programs or services, that's $1 million. If you have 10,000 people that invest $100 with you, that's $1 million. If you have 100,000 people that invest as little as $10 with you, that's $1 million. And if you have 1 million people at $1, that's $1 million in revenue, right? Now, maybe as you're seeing this, you may start to see what some of the bigger brands do is they have programs and services that kind of fit all of these. Why not you? Now, it may not happen overnight. Like my first product or service in the product suite was actually the consulting practice, and that took a few years, and then it became the book, and then it became courses, and then it became other tiers of service and things, and we added on things, and it took like 5 to 10 years to get there, and then ultimately we expanded and had over 100 different offerings in our product suite to fill almost every tier you could think of, between like $7 all the way up to multiple thousands of dollars. How about you? Could you do that? Let's even have more fun with this. The contacts value per month, right? I'm going to take the 20 million off the table because it's not likely that you or I or building bootstrap business are going to get one investor every single month when we do it, but others have done it, right? It happens. That's why building assets in the client journey for looking at investors or exiting can be a great model. Begin with the end in mind, as the great Stephen Covey says. So if you just have 10 people who invest 100 grand a month with you, that's $1 million, right? In a month, that's 12 million in a year. Now that's a very high risk business. There are businesses that do that, but let's say most of us are going to be in this middle range, right? Let's say you have 100 people that invest 10,000 a month with you. That's $1 million a month times 12 months. That's a $12 million a year business. 1,000 people times 1,000 a month. That's $1 million in business per month. Over 12 months, 12 million. 10,000 people that invest $100 a month, $1 million a month. 12 months is 12 million. So you start to see how this math plays. What does that mean for you? Not only can you have one-time sales, but you can have tiers of sales where it's recurring revenue. Membership revenue today becomes such a valuable asset in your business. Membership revenue. So I encourage you to be looking at what can you do, and as we get a chance to connect and work together, let's talk through, let's strategize how you can start building into evolving and expanding your product suite or bringing in partners to be able to do this. So for you, where are you at with your list, right, today? So you might be at 10,000 people on your list, and if you look at your revenue per month, right, you now can divide that math up, and you can go, okay, if you're doing a million a month, 10,000, so that means that your client value subscriber is 1,000 a month times 10,000. That becomes actually that's 10 million. So maybe it's 100 a month, right? 100 a month would be $1 million times 12, which would be 12 million a year. So where are you now, and what is your commitment to grow your list and grow the subscriber value per month, which ultimately grows the subscriber value per year by grow the list and create monetization or optimization in your business model. So think about that, right? So action steps. Let's go to the action steps. You want to build your media, your data, and your leads. You want to build your product and service suite. Now, I want to give you an example. I don't just want to leave you here, because in this conversation I had with a client earlier this week, as I broke this down for me, it's like, oh my God, Dan, you really simplified this for me, and seeing it laid out really helps and makes a difference. So I want to walk you through it at a very high level. If you have questions, then certainly let's go ahead and walk through it as well. So this is a case study. This was, and this is a theoretical example, and I've simplified a lot of our business just for time. But what you can start to see in our model is, we in step one, we had a bunch of leads. We were spending a bunch of money driving media to opt in, and we were generating over 10,000 leads a day at our peak. And that resulted in about 200 people per day buying our programs, anywhere from $7 to $17 to $27 depending. So I'm going to call that stage 2. So that generated about $5,400 a day. We had an upgrade option that was an add-on between 67 and 97, and that was about 50 per day. The average was about 97, so that's $4,800 a day. And then we had programs between $297 and $497 each and every month. We'll just say that the average value was $497. So that was approximately 10 per day, $4,970. Now, this 50 is out of the 200, that 10 is out of the 50 and the 200. So they're the same customer, just they're going deeper and getting more services or products at the end of the day. So what does this equal? That's $15,220 a day, or about $76,000 to $100,000 a week in the front end. So this was our front end mechanisms that we had in place. Now, what did we have? We had email, we had text or voice broadcast at the time, or both actually. We also had phone calls. We also had teleseminars we would drive to. So there was a series of those 5 layers that we drove to ultimately build this momentum. So that was about 50 to 70,000 front end leads a week. We had 1,000 to 1,400 people that bought our initial program in phase 2. Phase 3, we had about 250 to 350 people that got those programs. We had about 24,850 per week in revenue if you add that up, right, between these 3 tiers. So, in phase 4, 24,850 to 34,790 for phase 4 per week. So the total was over 76,000 per week, right? So what does that mean? Now, we had front end programs and then we had back end programs. We don't have time to break down because we literally had dozens and dozens and dozens of different programs here. If you could think of it, we built our services and education programs like a menu of services, customized to people, customized to their situation. And it ranged anywhere from about $100 all the way up to about $20,000. The average per lead was approximately, or per buyer, on the, if you look at number 2 back here, the average per lead was $260 of all leads, right? So that was generating about, as this cascaded in time, about 200 per day. We're generating about an average of $260 per value per. Now, how did we do it? We did it with phone, voice, text, mail, direct mail, and email. So that was an additional $77,000 per day from what we did, right? That's over $2 million a month. Beyond the $1 million a month, it was over $2 million a month before I ended up exiting and selling that business. Now, we've been able to help other clients do this. There's others who've been able to take this even bigger, further. What could you do? What could you do with being able to do this if you've put focus on growing a bigger list, and then also growing a bigger service and product suite, and then also looking at how we can continue to help you integrate your campaigns with email, text, phone, video, in-person appointments. So if you look at your client journey, you've got your front end, and we want to identify what are the product suites that we could have and how do we build your list here on the front end that ultimately drives to the back end and ultimately build out your spokes on the wheel for the back end that allow you to go deeper with your clients, to ultimately create recurring or passive income, to ultimately stimulate referrals, and also look at, okay, well, how do we get you to a place down the road where one person would write you a check for X to exit the business or invest in the business or a combination to set you free as an option. Not that you have to by any means, because if you love your business, well, you may never ever want to sell it, and that's okay. But if you do want to sell it, is it possible that someone could write you a check for $100 million? Yes, it is. It's happened, and it can happen to you if you do it right. Now, it's not going to happen if you don't do anything. If you do nothing, of course, you'll get nothing. So what are your action steps here? Focus on the data and the media and building your list. Be able to partner and build and create a full product suite and service suite. And then you can do that even easier and faster with the 5 pillars of our direct response branding model, right? Put a lot of intention on your vision and growth plan. Reverse engineer. We've shown you some math. Now we can again come back together. Ideally, you're inspired, you're encouraged, you're thinking bigger. The key is think bigger and stay thinking bigger. even when there's uncertainty and there's changes in the economy and there's, all kinds of bad news. Number 2 is connection campaigns. We build these front-end connection campaigns to accelerate the sales cycle, to build trust and respect in the process, and romance in advance. Lead machines. The more leads you have, the more invitations and offers you make each day, the likelihood is greater that you're going to make more money and increase the value per subscriber on your list. You do that by also creating education-based conversion opportunities. You've got to make invitations for conversion. In other words, moving forward, turn these casual conversations, as Mark Cuban says, conversations into client. Conversations into client. Education-based conversion events give you the ability to do that. And then when you really get this right, you can go deep by scaling it profitably, with freedom, with peace of mind, and a whole lot more. So we've covered a lot here, of course. If you want to go deeper, if you want to go faster, let's sit down a little bit more one-on-one. We can have a consultation if you're new to our world. However you might be seeing, there might be a link somewhere here on the page. I don't know if it's over there or over here or where it might be, up there, down here, somewhere. Let's have a one-on-one conversation and talk about your business, review your stuff, review your assets, and then let's build a custom plan to help solve some of your biggest challenges, help you get more leads, get more appointments, get more clients every single day, and also, most importantly, do it profitably and do it with a lot less stress, and get a system in place so that you're freed up to do more with less, to do more of what you love, and also be able to work more on the things you love, more on the business, not in the business. So if you'd like to go deeper, schedule a consultation at breakthroughstrategycall.com, or depending on when and how you're seeing this, let's just have a talk in our next meeting or conversation. Take action, seize the day, post your comments below wherever there's a place to be able to do that, or send us an email, and I look forward to your feedback, look forward to helping you, look forward to working with you. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.